To prove that people on the internet will argue about literally anything, here's a picture of a metaphysically necessary truth. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. And I said begins to is slipped in there because it would refute God, sophistry.
Right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like an argument like that, like everything that begins to exist as a cause, like some of these like classic?
Yeah, it's special pleading to the highest degree, which you pointed out. You're changing even the verbiage of the argument to make an exception for the thing that's already an exception. Our God is outside of space and time. Oh, then
that's the same thing as nothing.
The same thing as nothing. It also means he can't be impactful in this world, because as soon as he interacts or interferes with this world, we can see that, we can measure that difference. You know, when God killed of his own volition and action, no soldiers needed. When he throws stones down from heaven, he's no longer outside of space and time. When he takes a life on purpose to help his army get a victory, when he sends a deceiving spirit, when he confuses everyone and makes them blind so that they can't win their battle, like all of these times that God interacts, even sending Jesus, guess what? God's no longer outside of space and time. If he is there, he has to stay there. The second he interacts, you can't do this anymore. And so again, I think that those arguments, the fallacy is, of course, special pleading, because you can do the same thing with any other term. You can do the same thing with the universe. You know, this is the whole conversation with infinite regress and did the universe come from nothing, and all of these straw men that they try to put in the mouth of an atheist. And I'm no expert, but I do know that whatever you can say about God, you could just say about the universe, and you've made it one order of complexity less. So if you're talking about Occam's razor, if you really want to be logical, like then be logical. We know we can follow a timeline, 13.8 billion years. We don't know what happened before that, if there's a before that. We don't know if universes beget universes. If this is some kind of a cycle, we can only measure to a point. And after that, the honest thing to say is, I don't know. If you're going to make the argument that it had to come from something, then so does God. Well, not God. He's outside of that. Why? And there is no why, except that you want him to be the first cause, because that answers your weird, creepy little apologetic tactic. And it simply doesn't work. I think they get the most attention because you can dress them up like William Lane Craig's Kalam it's simple with its premises, but when you actually hear him explain it, he's using so many philosophical terms and really impressive language that you feel like, how do I fight this? How can I break this down? But all he is saying is, my God is the one exception. And it's like, that's not an answer. That doesn't answer anything. And I actually saw that one. I don't have Twitter or Facebook or anything, but I saw that because Cameron posted it on his community board on YouTube. And I didn't react to it because I don't want to go crazy every day. But I thought, how disingenuous to not post the argument in full, to not be correct with the verbiage, you know, to even do it in a way to like rile people up. Like, what's your point? How is this God's love? What are you doing here? It's all so disingenuous to me that I don't have this burden. As an atheist content creator, I don't owe God anything. But if you're a Christian apologist or a content creator for God, do you not really need to check yourself on if you're doing more for the kingdom than less, and how you're utilizing your time and what you're doing with your ad revenue? Like, and I know that's an unfair position for me who isn't held to the same standard, but I think it's insane and I don't know Cameron, and I'm not saying anything about him in particular, but as a sounding board here, really, or a jumping off point of how do any of these apologists justify these quips, these riling up atheists? He said other things that are downright just horrible about atheists. And like First Peter says, to give a kind account. Is this you giving a kind account? Is this you showing God's love? I think that the fact that they're not held to this higher standard, or that they don't hold themselves to it, or that Christians don't expect it, is another problem within itself. We do not see lives changed. We do not see a peace that surpasses understanding. My Christian commenters are some of the nastiest things I've ever heard. And yes, other Christians would say they don't represent anyone, but if they have the light of Christ in them, should they ever even be able to type these things? It just blows my mind. At what point do you say there is a standard of what it should look like to be a Christian, and we simply don't see it? And I just went somewhere completely different than you were going with a Kalam argument or a first cause argument. But it all ties together, because I see those posts all the time, and it's like, what are you doing? I have a higher standard for how I conduct myself online than this. What is going on?
Yeah, I was arguing, and this is my fault. I shouldn't argue with people on Twitter, and I don't know why I did, but this like one Christian was like literally calling me a dumbass and stuff like that. And I was like, I was like, what gospel are you reading? I was like, because I like know the gospel where it says like to turn the other cheek. And he's like, what? Christians just supposed to bend over and take it? And I'm like, yes, explicitly yes. Like I read the gospels where like one of them was like stoned and then celebrated the fact, I think it was Acts, celebrated the fact that he was like worthy of being persecuted for Christ.
Yeah.
I read the Bible that says, pray for those who persecute you.
If I say something foolish, I'm a fool. But Christians aren't allowed to call someone a fool. You know, it's right there in Matthew. Like, and I can't, and it's even funny to me how many Christians actually use that word fool with me. It's like, call me an idiot, but you're actually doing the thing, New Testament in context, Jesus himself is saying not to do. And the punishment, by the way, the second part of that verse, and I don't want to overspeak because I can't recall right now. I'm pretty sure it's like hell, right?
You'll be in dangers of the fires of hell.
Yeah. And so it's hilarious to me how much they don't take this seriously to an extent. And again, not all Christians. Obviously, there's Christians living really wonderful lives and trying to be as Christ-like as possible. And we're hearing from probably a silent majority. So I want to be as fair as possible. But the fact that anyone could actually say the sinner's prayer or go to church and read their Bible and profess a belief in Jesus Christ and then not represent anything of what we're supposed to see from the witness of the Holy Spirit that has come upon them, it's fascinating to me because it's proof. Like, I don't want to be the person that says if you don't act like a Christian, you're not a Christian. But the very fact that Christians can act non-Christian is unbiblical. Where is the new creation? Where is the peace that surpasses it all? Like, it's at some point you have to say the promises that were made to what would happen to you internally as a believer with the witness of the Holy Spirit, they're simply not true. And this is something that I've been building a lot more of a case around in my more recent videos. And I'm going to be making a big video as kind of a challenge. I've been told I've been trying to bring all my comments, and I like data. And I'm gathering how many times since I started my channel, a Christian in all sincerity has said, I'm praying for you. And right now, I'm somewhere around like 1,300 good-meaning Christians with the witness of the Holy Spirit have promised that they're indeed praying for me, yet alone everyone in my life, yet alone, everything else. Thousands of people. So they're meeting all the criteria. This is God's will. He doesn't want me to be lost. This is the video I'm putting out. I'm already ruining it. Seeing it live here on Deep Drinks. But they're meeting all the criteria. 2 or 3 are gathered. How about 2,000? Okay, that should be good for God, right? In terms of how we should pray. Praying in his will, because we don't want to pray outside his will. Jesus says at least 3 times, he wishes for none to be lost. That's me. He doesn't want me to be lost. They're praying sincerely. They're praying often without ceasing. All the things they're telling me they're doing, and here I am. So either every single one of them is a liar, and they're not actually praying, issue, or God isn't doing what he said, issue. There is no getting around it. You have clear verses about the power of prayer, ask and receive. I've put all these verses on prayer together, making sure that you meet each of them, because sometimes they have different requirements for what you would expect. But it's that simple, and here I am. Like, what is their answer to this? I should be saved. There's no getting around it. So it's that kind of thing, again, with the peace that Christians should have with the witness of the Holy Spirit, where we don't have 30,000 denominations. You simply refute the Bible itself when you look at the hard data.
I remember I went onto a Discord once, and it was a Christian Discord that I got invited to. So I came along and I said, hey, I went to the chat and I said, hey, I'm going to be in the voice room, and I'm an atheist. If anyone wants to ask me questions about why I don't believe in God, you're welcome to come along. And turns out like it was only pretty much atheists in the room, because they all got invited to this Christian channel as well. And we're just waiting for a Christian to rock up. And then this Christian lady rocks up, and then like I just kept using the Socratic method and asking questions, and it got to the point where they were like essentially screaming at me. And
you have a hardened heart, and I'm going to pray for you. What's your name?
Dave
What's
McDonald.
Yeah. And trust me when I tell you, one day you will pay for that. And that's your warning, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for the threat. I'm sure you're going to duck out now.
I'm not threatening you.
Who is?
I'm just saying.
Who is?
What you're doing
Who
is
is
wrong.
Who's
If you
threatening
don't
me?
want to believe,
Who's threatening
then
me?
don't believe.
Who's threatening me?
I'm just saying, you either go to hell or you go to heaven.
Whoa,
you make a choice here for it.
Oh, your God kind of sounds like a mafia boss. That sounds kind of cruel, right?
Why are you even on here?
It's on my other YouTube channel somewhere. But what's funny is at the end, they were saying that they'll pray for me and I'll know that God is real because like of the experience that I'm going to have. And I said, awesome. Like I was like, great. And I actually said, I'm going to put this in my calendar. I said, how long do you need for this miracle to happen? Because she said soon. And I said, how long do you need for this miracle to happen that'll convince me? Because if it does convince me, great. Like if there is a God, I want to know about it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to like, if the earth is flat, I want to know about it. Tell me the evidence. This is like my take on all these things. Anyway, I put it in my calendar for a year's time. I said, sure, I got a year for this miracle, for this thing to happen. It's going to happen soon. So a year's way more than like it needs to be. And I went to, and then I got this like thing, message that person and tell them if the prayer worked like a year later.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm blocked. I was like, I got blocked. Like, so